Juice, we do got to address these rumors because I think this is what all Cubs fans are really thinking about right now. You're thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Where does this guy fit? Where does that guy fit? It's a big puzzle. I think that's why people love sports. Okay, the off-season nerds like you and me. I'm such a knucklehead for numbers and off-season shit. It's disgusting sometimes, but this is what we live for. It's a big puzzle. How can we put this together? And this goes here and this works here. And how is that going to look? We have to dive into the big fish first. Juice, the Juan Soto rumors are out there. Bruce Levine has done probably the most reporting on this directly in terms of like actual whispers or claimed whispers on the topic more than just, the Cubs are going to be in, discussions about Soto. Like, cool. That means they're going to be at the table. That's all you can really ask for at the end of the day. Levine takes it a step further, saying he thinks Morel would have to be a part of any deal from what he's hearing. There's reports that if the Cubs take all the money, all $33 million he's owed via potential arbitration this year, his last year of arbitration as well, by the way, if the Cubs take all the money, it could be just a one-for-one swap potentially with a guy like Morel, which would be bananas if that were to end up happening. But Juice, I mean, I think the Soto rumors have now conquered Cubs fandom. Like, I know the Shohei discussion is still happening as it is in our YouTube chat here, but overall, man, it is really like it's Soto right now. That's what every Cubs fan is super focused on because the rumors have been flying and swirling everywhere.
Yeah, I think we're going to slowly move through guy to guy to guy like this too. I mean, if you remember, like immediately when the season was done, it was Pete Alonso, and it was the Cubs are very interested in making, the biggest offer and have already went to the Mets. And, it's funny because we were talking offline and we were talking about, the state of baseball and what has happened over the course of the year. And I think that like our listeners need to take this into account because I think this is going to happen more and more and more because let's face it, guys. The reason this is happening to the Padres is no lie. There was a report that said, they took out a loan of upwards of, $50 million?
$50 million.
Yeah, to fund their payroll for this year. Now, all of us sit here and go, they got to have accountants and people who ran the numbers on this and they were able to do it. And, there's not
But they were able to do it in a short run.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think what we're not accounting for is the fact that there are the market and the scenery around some of these ballparks and the ball clubs have changed because some of them lost their regional sports network.
Yeah.
And when they lose RSNs, they lose RSN money. And when they lose RSN money, they lose millions and millions and millions of dollars that could be dedicated towards payroll.
Yeah.
And your Chicago Cubs are sitting in the most of unique places where they have their own network.
Only one of 3 teams? 4 teams?
4.
Because I think the Mets have their own network too. I think
Mets, Yankees, Dodgers.
That's
Cubs.
it. Well, yeah, Cubs are the 4th. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Continue.
I don't know. We'll have to look that up too. I bet you there's one more missing, but to each your own. But I do think that there's a possibility that this happens because there was 11 to 12 teams that lost their regional sports network. And who knows how these teams spent with the expectation that they were going to have that network money. And now they're scrambling to find network money. And when you scramble to find somewhere to play your games, you're just not going to have that return. You're going to the bargaining table desperate. And these networks are going to look at it and go, well, you want to have your games on TV because you have to, and this is what I'm able to pay for it. So I think that it's interesting that like this happens because the Cubs are now sitting in a point where they have the leg up, and everybody who booed Marquee, hands up in the air. And as a guy who I never once said, I think Marquee's a bad idea, only for the the standpoint of like not having and the way they rolled it out, yes, was a problem. But with anything new in the marketplace, there's going to be trials and things that get screwed up in the way while you're paving the road to get there. You can pretty much get Marquee any way you want now. I mean, you could pay a streaming fee now for it. It's $20 a month, and you get the Cubs games no matter where you're at. So it's funny how we sit here, and now the Cubs now have Marquee as, in my opinion, it's an asset to what they have, and now they start building up the ballpark around it. And now you can start supplementing, more and more money into this payroll. And now you're looking at teams like the Padres who spent more than they thought. They don't have their own network, and they're out of regional sports network. And now you start to wonder, now could the Cubs be the guys at the table who go, yeah, I know you're in trouble. I'm going to get you out of this. I can do this for you. Here's 2 lower end prospects, because I know if you keep waiting, you can't get to the season with this contract on your books because you're in financial trouble.
Yeah.
That's the scenario that the Cubs could find themselves in. And I think it's a great time to be at that poker table wanting a big bat, because there's going to be more names that come out.
1000%. And I think, Juice, you and I talked about this in the pre-show, and I felt enlightened by you bringing this up, because it's such a good point. I think that the Padres news today highlights that, stating like, look, some of these teams that really went for it, that we consider small market teams, are now feeling the financial back hit of things, especially not working out, right? It's a lot different when you're the Atlanta Braves, who, even though they don't own their own TV network, they have the Battery, which is their Wrigleyville, effectively, that they've built behind the stadium now, that they own. And they're one of the best teams in baseball. They sell out every game. They don't need to worry about like the TV contract thing right now and that money coming from it. They can get by in the meantime doing what they're doing. But you look at the Cubs, like you said, Juice, they are the big boys at the table now, because I pulled it up here. They don't list the Dodgers, which to me is weird, but I think the Dodgers have their own network. I'm about 99% certain that they have their own network. I could be totally off, but it says here they list 4 teams, so we'll say 5. The Dodgers, as we already noted, notably the Yankees have their own network. Mets have their own network, as we noted. The Boston Red Sox have their own network. And it's the Chicago Cubs have their own network. And then on top of that, Juice, further in this article, and by the way, we got to give credit where it's due, sportingnews.com, Kevin Skiver, it was from way earlier this year. So, I mean, this is stuff that's been out there now, but I think you're seeing the back end now of the ripples from this. It goes on to say the most common partner to broadcast was Bally Sports in all the regional RSNs, as you said, Juice, which was previously under the Fox Sports umbrella, is now owned by Diamond Sports Group. And for people that don't know who Diamond Sports Group is, that's an arm of the broadcast TV giant Sinclair. Who else is a Sinclair network? Marquee Sports Network is a Sinclair network. All the money is going through Sinclair right now. So owning your own network, even under their umbrella, is stupid good for this team. Everybody, Juice, I know you said it, you're going to dance on some graves, but I think we're dancing on graves talking about everybody that poo-pooed Marquee Sports Network, because now it's coming to the fruition. The Cubs were operating 5 and 6 years into the future. They really were. They said, watch, we don't, because of YouTube, because of all this, we need to own our own broadcast network. We need to make it accessible to everybody, and no matter where you are. And if we do that, we will always be in front of consumers of the sport and Cubs fans. And you build an empire. The new age of baseball fan starts to love your team. You become the Yankees, the Cubs of old with WGN, right? Because now you're back in front of everybody now, being your own network, almost like WGN in a way. You're public, but you're not public over the old-fashioned system. You're everywhere because you're readily available to any level of consumer, no matter who their TV provider is or where they live. The economics of that is going to be stupid. And this is, again, where it tickles my fancy. I have an accounting background. I'm a numbers nerd. But the dollars and cents that are going to come into this Cubs team. Oh, and don't they own all the rooftops around Wrigley? Don't they own all those new stores and shops around Wrigley? Don't they own the hotel that's across the street that costs like $370 a night to stay at when the Cubs are in town on a weekend. They own all that. That's additional revenue coming in. I know, again, we poo-pooed it. But you know what, Juice? This is why I know that Wrigleyville is not it's not what it used to be anymore as it actually is. My mom, I've referenced her on this show before, was a nights and weekend season ticket holder for the Chicago Cubs in the late 80s and early 90s. And she was at Wrigley more than we are at Cubs on Tap. I mean, hardcore fan. I'm looking at him right now. I can see him over there. Baseballs, Joe Girardi, Ryan Sandberg, etc. I took her to her first game pretty much post-construction of everything in Wrigley. She had been there when they were kind of renovating Wrigley and then like starting to do some of it, but a lot of it was unfinished. This was the first time she had been down there since everything had been finished earlier this year. It was the Kansas City Friday game back in August. We did a whole lap around Wrigley because we got down there early. I wanted her to see everything. And she goes, this actually turned out really nice. It doesn't look out of place. It's different, but it's not an eyesore. I'm like, yes. And now everybody loves it. That Raising Cane saved my life in mid-July after a bender on a Saturday at Wrigley. Let me tell you, the Cubs, their business decisions that were booed and mocked at the time, and I think even we mocked them for crying wolf because they're investing all this money up front, but it's going to come in tenfold on the back end. That now this team is going to have the financial resources. They should be a big player. They should do this. There is no excuse now. But they also have the prospects to go and trade for a Juan Soto and say, hey, pimp, we know you don't do extensions. You're a Boras client. Let's actually talk. Get Scott's ears perked before he even needs to start worrying about hitting free agency. And just say, look, man, you're going to the traveling point. It's a great city to live in. The fan base is insane. Wrigley is one of the most iconic ballparks in the country and stadiums probably in the world, if we're being completely frank. It is a mecca for baseball. You can do all this. You can be the freaking one of the faces of this franchise for the next decade. What's your number? What's your number? We'll give it to you. Because it's going to get to a point, Juice, where I wouldn't be surprised if just these smaller market clubs continue to struggle because just the natural flow of the economy and where things are kind of trending lately. Who's to say that the Cubs all of a sudden, what if there is no luxury tax anymore? Just to keep teams alive, they can't even think about doing that. Or they lower it because they say, hey, like, it's not going to be as much, but we need to give some of these other teams some things. Like, if you spend the money, we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours. Cubs are in a power position. Why wouldn't Juan Soto want to be in a power position on a baseball team for years and years to come? And I know Scott here jokes, Soto for cash considerations, but I mean, the Cubs, again, the report said if the Cubs ate the whole $30 million he's due this year, the Padres would potentially be willing to do a 1-for-1 swap with arguably one of the super young superstars of this game in Juan Soto.